Welcome to a MainelyDIY.com video. Okay, so I am going to cut 3-inch strips of my piece of paper because I want 3-inch squares. So I'm going to cut a 3-inch strip. So that's 3-inch. Then I'm going to cut a 2.5-inch strip. I really like my Creative Grids ruler here because it's 6.5 wide, which is a little bit different than most of them. Most of them come in even inches. And it has, while I'm showing you, it has these little frosted grid marks. They help hold your ruler steady so it doesn't slip all over the place. So I am going to cut my 2.5-inch strips. Or strip, rather. And then I'm going to cut a 2-inch strip. So I'll flip my ruler over and do a 2-inch strip. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to take my 2-inch strip that I just made and I'm going to turn that into 2-inch squares. I started with a 12-inch square piece of paper. You can use whatever you have. Doesn't have to be all out of one sheet. Could be whatever you have. But for this particular tree, I chose to do just one color. So I'm going to strip these up because I may use them in another tree. So I only needed 3. Well, I'm sorry, I only needed 1 per tree, but I'm just going to go ahead and strip that whole piece up. These were my 2.5-inch squares, so I am going to cut that up. And I am going to cut my last strip, or my first strip, depending on how you look at it, and I'm going to cut my 3-inch squares out of from my 3-inch wide strip. And I cut these with my ceramic blade cutter. I really like that. You should check out my reviews on blades and see why you might want a ceramic cutter. Okay, so I have my 3-inch square here, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it in half, right sides together. I'm going to unfold it, fold it in half, right sides together. Okay, so I've got my little, kind of like a little plus sign. And then I'm going to fold wrong sides together, but I'm folding on the diagonal this time. And you know, if you get the right sides and the wrong sides backwards, it doesn't really matter because it kind of is mostly just a guide where to fold again. You do refold on some of the lines. So I turned it and I'm doing the diagonal the other way. So if I open it up, you see I'll have 8 triangles. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 triangles that it produces. So I'm going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, again, just to make a sharp crease. And then I'm going to open that up, and I am going to fold it so I have wrong sides together. So next I'm coming along this fold line. See, that's my fold on my right hand side, and I'm just going to push that down towards the middle. And you can kind of see why I might have creased it so well, because you need it to fold in there and crease under that. So I'm going to crease this diagonal, and lay it down. And I'm going to come over here to the left hand side. I'm going to poke that down towards my middle. I want to get right down on that line because I want to get a sharp point up here. And I am going to crease those down. Okay, now I'm taking my right hand side and I'm going to kind of split this point of the triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this fold and I'm going to bring it to this center fold mark. Just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and crease that one down. And then I'm going to take my left hand one and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm taking the fold and bringing it towards the middle. Okay. Now you can see I've got a bit of white showing, and that's because I wasn't super careful on my folds, and partially because I wanted to show you what happens if you're not. So what I can do is I take a pair of scissors and just I'm going to trim just that back side out. It doesn't have to be straight because that part's not going to show anyway. So see, I trimmed it out, and so that didn't show. So I'm going to trim out my points kind of the same way, and I'm going to open that one up just a little bit so I can get right in where I want to be without any worry to that. And you see I'm not really being careful. I just need to make sure that it is trimmed out so it's not going to show. So trim that one out, and then I'm going to trim this one out as well. So I'm going to open that up just a little bit so I know that's the actually I'm not, well, yeah, I am. So it's this surface here that needs to have it trimmed out, so you just need to pay attention to which surface you're trimming. I'm just going to trim that out a little bit. There we go. So I have, this is the base of my tree with my 3-inch square. So next I'm going to take my 2.5-inch square, and I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm folding it in half, right sides together, and then I'm going to turn it around and fold it in half, right sides together. And then I'm folding it in half, wrong sides together. I'm folding on the diagonal this time. And then I'm going to unfold it and fold it on the other diagonal. Okay, I open it up, and I'm going to open it up here, and I'm going to fold it in half again there and make a good crease. That was wrong sides together. Then I'm going to open it up and refold that with the right side facing out. So now I've got a good crease, so I can poke that along the fold. I'm taking along the fold and then on the right hand side, and I'm poking it down to the middle. Kind of makes a triangle there, but then I'm going to fold it down so I've got two triangles on top of each other. Do the same thing with this side. So I am poking it down with on my left side towards the middle, have the two triangles, and I'll show you what this looks like. See how it, this is the open side of it, so we've got these two that come together to meet, and each side has a flap on it. So I am going to take the top flap and I'm going to fold this folded edge to my middle crease that was just my marking line, and I'm going to push that down pretty good, and then I am going to do the same thing with the other side. And again, I have some white to trim off, so I will go ahead and do that. I'm going to just... Okay, so that is the middle of my tree. So then for the top of the tree, I need to use my 2-inch square, and I'm going to do the same thing. I am folding it in half, opening it up, fold in half, open it up, and then I'm going to fold wrong sides together along the diagonals. So it's one, too. Opening it up, I'm going to refold on this one. I'm just going to crease this one down really good. Open it up and then refold it. I'm poking my fold down towards the middle on each side. And then I'll crease that down. I'm going to fold my fold to my center line on each side. Hey, and I did pretty good. I don't have really any white to trim on that one. So now I can assemble a tree. And so I've got my base, my middle, and I'm sliding that point right into this space here. And then I'm going to do that again. Now I can push them all down, have a tight little tree, or I can spread them out a little bit, whichever way suits my fancy. Okay, so now I am ready to assemble my tree onto a card. I've chosen this pre-made card to assemble my tree on. So I am going to start by putting the tree itself together. So I'll set the card aside. And what I'm going to do is I like these Zig two-way glue pens. They work well for me. Put my Zig glue pen here. I've got it started. The tip kind of turns a little bit blue when it gets started. And I'm going to take my center of my tree, and I'm going to take the piece and open it up just a bit, and then I'm going to take my pen and run it right along the center line. And then I'm going to run it along the back side a bit too. And then I'm going to take my bottom tree and I'm going to nestle it in there. And I don't want to put it down tight. You could if you wanted to, but I think that looks good about there. So I'm going to press that down. And I am going to open up my top a little bit. And I'm going to run my glue pen right along that center line and then across the base on the inside, and then I'll slide my tree right in there, and I'm going to position it where I like it, probably about, I don't know, about there works good for me. And then I simply am going to turn my tree over and run a bead of glue right down the middle, maybe make a couple crosses here. But again, I'm just kind of gluing down the middle. And I'm going to then come down and do the outside of the tree. And then across, probably across the bottom here as well. So it's kind of the outline of the tree. And flip that over, choose where I want to put it. And push it down. So my tree glued to my card, I want to put a star on mine, so I've chosen a gold color stock, and I have a little star punch here, so I'm going to go ahead and punch that. I like to see what I'm punching, so I'm going to put my turn my punch upside down, put my paper in so I can see what I'm getting, and then I'm going to go ahead and punch that using my table to push the button down. If you've got plenty of stock and you're not worried about it, you can definitely just put it in from the top side and punch it that way. Okay. So now I'm going to take my little piece and I am going to, my little star here, and I am going to use my glue right in the center there. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that on my tree. Okay, so now I have a cute little Christmas card. You don't want to forget to sign or stamp or what have you to let people know who made your card. And I will put something on in the middle here, and I'll have a card that's ready to go. So I have my little tree here on my card, and let's say I want to embellish that tree. Particularly if I'd used plain paper, this would be a really good technique. So I'm going to take these little tiny rhinestones, and I am just going to kind of randomly place them on my tree and see how that looks. Okay, so just adding those little rhinestones adds a nice little shine to the card. I do think I like that, so I'm going to do that a little bit more often. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of pre-work for my card, because I'm going to put this one on a dark blue background, and I want a little bit of snow, so I want my glue to have a chance to dry, so I'm going to prep my card first and then make my tree. So I've got my card folded in half, and it was a leftover piece from something and it wasn't quite the perfect size. But I am just going to kind of liberally, I'm using a glue stick. This one works really pretty nice. It's called Elmer's Corner Glue Stick Extra Strength, and it's Craft Bond glue. I find the Craft Bond glue works well as opposed to just your regular school glue. So I want to line my edge up with the fold of the card. The rest of it I'm not as particular about, but I do want to get it lined up with the fold. So I'm going to press that down pretty hard. Maybe even take my scorer and press that down. Then I'm going to flip my card over and I'm going to do trim off my edges. Here we have that card, and I'm going to put my card in some snow. So I've taken to use this paper, and it's red on the back side, but I like the texture of the white here. So I am just going to kind of take my rotary cutter and I'm going to just go and make a zigzag there. So I am going to probably use this one for my tree. I could use this one as well, but I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that on and trim that off as well. So I have my card base all made for my tree that I am making. Okay, so we have my 3-inch square cut out of the gold floral, and then I'm going to use this silver as my center. So that needs to be 2.5 inches square. So I am going to take advantage of the 2.5 inch ruler size and work that right in there. And I'm just going to cut that off, and there I have my center piece. And then I am going to cut my top one, which needs to be 2 inches square. So I'm going to turn my ruler here, and I'm going to cut a 2-inch square out of my gold dot material. Okay, so I have my squares cut. So I'm going to start with the biggest one. I'm going to fold it right sides together in half, right sides together in half. Okay, and then I am going to fold it on the diagonal with the wrong sides together, and I'll do that again on the other diagonal. Okay, so I'm going to open that up. I'm going to make a good crease here, and then I'm going to flip it back over. Okay, and I am going to take this right hand corner and poke it down towards the center. Crease that down so I've got two triangle flaps. I'm going to do the same thing with the left hand side. I'm poking the left folded edge down to the middle, and I've gotten those two. So I'll show you what that looks like. That's the inside, and you have these two triangles meeting, and then it's the back side. The side has two flaps. So I am going to take this flap, and I'm going to take this fold line right along here, and I'm going to bring it to the center here. Just fold that down along and make a crease. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Okay. So there I have my tree base. I do have a little bit of white showing, and I don't want that. So I am just going to trim that off in the back side, not being real careful of how I trim it because that part's not going to show. So I'm just going to trim it off there. Now I'm satisfied that I don't have any white showing. So then I'm going to take my center piece and I'm going to do the same thing. So okay, so I'm happy with my middle piece. Now I am going to make my tree top. So I'm taking my So I have my top. So I am going to take my zig pen because that's the one that I like. I am going to start with my bottom here, and I'm actually going to start with my middle piece. Take my glue gun, glue right down the center line and across the bottom. Nestle my tree bottom in there, adjust it to where I like before I push down very hard. I'm going to have quite a bit of space on this tree. And then I'm going to take my top piece, run glue right down the center of it, and then across the bottom. Okay. And then I'm going to slide my tree into there, figure out about where I want it to be. I think it looks good right there, so I'm going to press it down. Okay. Now I have my card base that I have prepared, and I am going to glue my tree on there. So I am going to turn my tree over. I'm going to put a glue line right down the center of the back, maybe a couple glue lines across the center of the back. And then I'm going to outline each triangle with my glue. Not being real precise, but I do want to make sure I get enough glue down because this paper is a little glittery and doesn't stick to that. You don't want to glue this piece there. You don't want to glue that. You want those free. So then I'll decide where I want it on my card. Let's see. I think I like it right there, so I am just going to push it down. I probably put something heavy on it to dry overnight. But I have my card front finished. I'd probably open it up, put a sentiment in the inside, and make sure to sign the back so everybody knows who made it. So there is a different tree for you.